I hate to make projections and expectations. That's not fair. I've never met Josh personally, just like I have met some of the guys that have come in the last couple weeks. So we'll see how it goes this week. Hopefully he can work hard, put the team first, and end up helping us in any role that he can find for himself on the team. You know, you'd like to try to get up to speed as quickly as possible, and it's really up to the individuals. You know, all these things need to play themselves out, and I'm not going to project anything. I'm just going to try to go be the positive, enthusiastic leader that I am and try to be a great quarterback and, you know, try to embrace whoever's on the team.
There might be some hope for this guy after all.
Yeah! Let's play this game. Let's play some football.
Griffin, I'm getting really tired of your cocky attitude. How many times have I told you, no showboating?
Relax, Tom. I'm just having a little fun. I got it under control.
Okay, 28, Z right, pitch left. On one. Ready, break.
Fantasy football, Goon and Tooch. 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 Fantasy football, touchdown.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. Fantasy Football Goon is a part of the Bears Barroom Radio Network. I'm your host, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and joining me back from vacation is my good friend and my buddy John Santucci, the Tooch. Tooch, welcome back, man.
Oh, thanks. It's good to be back. I've been gone for so long. It's finally back. Good to be back home. I've been 3 weeks in the Philippines, so visiting my in-laws and taking the babies there. We had the little baby's baptism and did some island hopping. Beautiful. Tasted a lot of foods I never tried before, and drove the family car around. That's it's like GTA, Joe.
Boom, you're Grand Theft Auto, baby.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's no, at intersections there's no like stop signs or anything, so it's kind of like people slow down, then they kind of decide who's going to go, or they let people go, or people pull out in front of you, they pass you on the right in front of you to make a left turn. It's crazy. There's all these little motorcycles and motorcycles with like cabs, little people carriers like welded onto them. Those go really slow. So,
oh jeez.
There'll be like a little motorcycle with carrying like five people, and then a lot of motor scooters, and those will have 3 people on them.
Yeah, did you miss football?
Yeah, I didn't I have to watch the games, after, recorded version of the game, but yeah, definitely. September's a good time to go down there because the weather's not. It's still blazing hot, Joe, but
it's not as hot.
It's not as hot, and that was my wife's 25th high school reunion, so that was the main purpose, and then taking the babies to see the relatives.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was a good time though, Joe. But I'm just glad to be back. I'm very tired from traveling.
Oh, I bet.
25-hour day yesterday at 24 hours, but
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm back and ready to go.
Oh, we're definitely glad to have you back, brother. And let's just get rolling right into the games. We have Thursday Night Football tomorrow. Jets going to visit the Browns. And the Browns made big headlines this week. They traded Josh Gordon to the New England Patriots for a 5th-round draft pick.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. New England wide receiver needy. And Julian Edelman, of course, be coming back, so that'll look good, man. Chris Hogan and Josh Gordon on the outside, Julian Edelman in the slot. Pretty good wide receiver core. New England's, if Josh Gordon can keep his head together and stay healthy, it's going to be exciting to see that Brady to Gordon combination. Yeah,
and that's a conditional draft pick too. So if Gordon performs, it'll be a 5th rounder. But if he gets suspended or something happens, then it'll be a 7th round pick. So New England's the only team that can really do this because they don't have anything to lose. They're an organization that's really well run. They got all kinds of draft picks, and what better organization for Josh Gordon to go than a place like New England with such a tight locker room, and Bill Belichick is the right coach for him.
Yeah, the history is there, and especially with Randy Moss coming over before, they've got the history for wide receivers doing okay, or troubled players making out in New England.
For sure, and this is actually a real interesting game. A couple weeks ago I wouldn't have thought so, but the Jets look much better than we thought, and the Browns are hanging in there. They hung in there last week, and they got the tie in week 1. Currently, the Browns are 3-point favorites at home. I'm taking the Browns in this one. John, what do you think?
I'm going to take the Browns, too. I think they'll be able to force Darnold to make some mistakes, just like Miami did last week. And I like the Cleveland defense. I'll tell you, Greg Williams is defensive coordinator. They're giving teams trouble. They gave Steelers trouble. So yeah, I'm going to take the Browns too, and lay the points.
For sure, and we have to talk about with Josh Gordon's departure, fantasy-wise, that means Antonio Callaway gets the big step up to the number 2 wide receiver. So Antonio Callaway owned in, barely almost available in all leagues right now. He's a guy that needs to be picked up in every single league because he's a really talented guy, and he's going to get an opportunity now.
Well, that's a kid I really liked. Also troubled, like Gordon.
Yeah.
Let's see, maybe he gets traded to the Patriots too, Joe.
Oh, jeez.
What's the kid I liked at college? Because this is a kid that can take a slant, all the way to the house. So this is he's quick as a blink. This kid, I love Callaway. He's just, he when he gets on the field, he's probably the fastest player on that field. But yeah. Definitely, he's got to be picked up in the leagues now. Jarvis Landry's going to get more looks.
Definitely.
He's definitely going to be heavily targeted. David Njoku should benefit as well from increased looks as well. So, yeah, and hopefully they get Carlos Hyde involved.
Yeah, I've been waiting for it. I thought last week it was going to happen. I mean, he had a pretty decent game, but, maybe he'll finally put it all together this week against the Jets. But I do think on the Jets side of the ball, there are a couple people you can consider too. You got Quincy Enunwa, who's been out of this world in the first 2 games. He's the new number 1 there. And then Robbie Anderson seems to have fallen off a little bit. Maybe he just doesn't have a great relationship with Sam Darnold. I can't quite tell yet. But Anderson's still a great player, but Enunwa is just outshining him almost on every snap.
Right, and of course Jermaine Kearse is still there too, Joe.
Yep.
And then the backfield too is a question mark on the Jets. They've been going with Isaiah Crowell had a big week 1, and Crowell and
Powell split
time last year. Kind of Powell got the better day that day, but backfield again is the Jets' backfield last year was hard to pin down too. So I think it might be a trouble spot the whole year long as Crowell and Powell take turns, outperforming each other.
Yeah, it's always a crapshoot with the backfield and with the Jets. So it depends on who you got by the week. I mean, either guy is worth a flex start if you're in a really deep league, but otherwise I would try to avoid them if you can. This Browns defense has been sneakily good, like you mentioned. So look for them to have a good game tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, actually, I picked up the Browns defense this week in the Barroom League. Just like the matchup, and then they have a good matchup next week as well. So streaming defense, consider the Browns this week.
Yeah, absolutely. They're looking good, and it's a nice matchup with the rookie. But we both like the Browns in this one. Let's move into the next game, John. Saints going to visit the Falcons in Atlanta. Falcons are currently 3-point favorites in this game. I'm going to go ahead and take the Saints +3. That offense has looked really good.
Yeah, it's a tough game for me to call. I'm having trouble, picking this one. I think I initially liked the Falcons, and their defense has looked better this past week. The 3-point favorite at home is basically even,
right.
Basically a neutral field even. So the Saints' weapons definitely better. Of course, Devontae Freeman's still out, likely for the Falcons. I think this game could go either way, Joe.
Oh, for sure.
Saints obviously have the better offense, but they both have the Julio Jones on the Falcons and Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas has been incredible.
Unbelievable.
He's on pace for 226 catches this year. But you and I talked about Michael Thomas before the season, how we thought this would be an amazing year for him, and he's totally delivered. I targeted him; he's hard to get.
Yeah.
He went pretty quick, and you and I kind of went with the two running backs for our first two picks theory, and then had to try and find receivers.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for running back owners for sure, especially if you got Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, it sure has, and some of the guys like David Johnson and Devontae Freeman, they just haven't performed. LaShawn McCoy, so names that you could count on in the past, they haven't lived up to billing.
No, they have not. It's still early in the season, but you just kind of have to wait and see with some of these guys. It gets really tough, and it's a long season. So all I can say is don't give up on your guys just yet, because you never really know what's going to happen. So just, don't lose the faith just yet. Don't cut ties with a player just because they have a couple bad weeks, because as well as anybody, John, it can turn around with the drop of a hat.
Yeah, and as far as winning this game, I think I'm going with the Falcons right now. I'll have to look at it a little bit more. I may change my mind before Sunday.
Yeah, I got the Saints right now, and in terms of fantasy players, we mentioned the guys. You're starting Drew Brees, you're starting Mike Thomas, you're starting Alvin Kamara. If you have Tevin Coleman, you're going to fire him up. And then I think on the sneaky side of the ball, I think Calvin Ridley's probably a good start here too. He did nothing in week 1, but last week he had 5 targets. He caught four balls, 64 yards and a touchdown. So Calvin Ridley's starting to get involved, and I think he might be a sneaky play here, John.
Yeah, and he's talking about not doing anything week 1, Matt Ryan, and then 8 points week 1, 34 points week 2.
Yeah.
So Matt Ryan has benefited from Calvin Ridley as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's the Falcons have had a week and a half to prepare for the Saints. Let's not forget they played Thursday night.
Sure.
Last week, so that's something to take into consideration. And Mark Ingram returning this week, Joe.
Mark Ingram, I thought it was a 4-game suspension.
Is it 4-game? Okay, I thought it was 2, but yeah. So it's still not back, and of course, if you're an Alvin Kamara owner, you're definitely starting him. He's just been great so far. Really solid out of the backfield and running the ball. Yeah,
for sure. Once he comes back, he's a guy too that he's probably going to put up some good numbers. You want any piece of the Saints that you can get, because they're having a good offensive attack right now. So definitely watch the Saints. They've been a fun team to watch. The defense is not nearly as good as we thought it would be, though, John.
Yeah, that's surprising to me. I really thought they'd be a good defense this year. Maybe they'll maybe their second half defense, a lot like last season. But this could be a high scoring game, Joe. So one to get your players into. Yeah,
absolutely. You want every piece of this game for sure. The next game, too, is another one of those games you probably want every piece of. 49ers going down to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes leads the league in touchdown passes with 10 through 2 weeks of the season, which is absolutely insane. So obviously if you have Patrick Mahomes, you got to fire him up against the 49ers. This is a fantasy stud game. You got Tyreek Hill, you got Travis Kelce. This is an unbelievable game for fantasy points. You got Jimmy G on the other side of the ball. If he starts, you got, Marquise Goodwin. You got Pierre Garçon. And then you got the league leader in rushing, which to everyone's surprise is Matt Breida. The kid has been outstanding.
Yeah, that's you picked it. Now, as far as the Chiefs offense, boy, I'm in 2 leagues, and I drafted Patrick Mahomes in both of them as a backup, but I've started him the first 2 weeks.
Of course.
Fortunately, I've started him the first 2 weeks just because I like the matchup, and I thought, Kansas City started hot last year. Mm-hmm. So I drafted Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes in both those leagues, and paying dividends right now. But we'll see. Once teams get tape on the players who are exploding right now, they're going to come back to earth. As teams figure out how to adjust and stop those players. So, just like they did with Deshaun Watson, who's kind of been average this season so far. You'll likely see Mahomes come back to earth.
Very true, and they're 7-point favorites in this game, the Chiefs, at home against the 49ers. 49ers looked much better last week. I'm still taking the Chiefs, though, with the being 7-point favorites.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points as well in this one. I don't think San Francisco's offense can hang with Kansas City's offense. So Kansas City's defense, while not good, they've been better than expected. They're able to hold opposing running backs to, out of the end zone and to, not giant weeks. So it's been through the air that they've been hurt. But I'll take the Chiefs and lay the 7.
For sure. And you mentioned I did call Matt Breida last week. I said he was going to have his breakout game, and, he actually blew the doors off the place last week. So I look for that to continue against his Chiefs defense, and I think it's going to be a shootout. I really do. I think this game is going to be probably 70 points scored again. So the Chiefs defense can't stop anybody, and I think the 49ers are going to struggle to stop the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's another high-scoring game. I think you see 60, 70 points that we put up in this one. So yeah, definitely want to get your Chiefs players in this one, and 49er players. George Kittle might be a good start too. Joe, he's been pretty good so far this year. I read his average depth of target is second only to Gronkowski, so he's about 13 yards depth per target, which is pretty good for a tight end.
Yeah, George Kittle is a great start. I think he's a top 5 tight end the rest of the season. Jimmy G looks his way often, and I think he's going to have a huge game here against that terrible Kansas City defense. So going to be a fun one to watch. Can't wait to see it. The next game here, got the Raiders going down to Miami to play the Dolphins. Dolphins currently sitting as 3-point favorites, John. The Raiders have looked pretty terrible, so I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one.
The 2-0 Dolphins, Joe.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Who would have thought? I really didn't think they'd be good this year. The defense has played pretty well. That's been enough for them to get those 2 victories. Oakland played the Broncos tough last week, still ended up losing. This is probably a letdown game for them, and I think Miami will easily cover the 3 points. I'm going to take the Dolphins.
Same here, and I think Kenyon Drake is an amazing start here against this Raiders defense. They have no energy without Khalil Mack. It's literally like watching, a bunch of guys in practice, really. I mean, they have not been very good at all. So I look for the Dolphins to have a big day here. I think Kenyon Drake goes off. And Kenny Stills again, too. I mean, he's looked really good.
Yeah, I like, Oakland has got a long way to travel, too, for this one. So definitely like the Dolphins in this, your Dolphins players. I want to see it from Kenyon Drake. Haven't seen much from him. Kenny Stills, of course, we called it in week 1. Then he kind of disappeared week 2. But, yeah, he's got a good matchup in week 3. So I still like Stills, and Ryan Tannehill has been better than expected. Still not great, but still nothing more than a backup. But we'll see. I definitely think Miami will have no problem covering the 3.
Agreed, and I still think Amari Cooper has a good game. I mean, he's been doing pretty well in John Gruden's system. It's unfortunate he doesn't have that much help around him, but you're still starting Amari Cooper, and you're still starting Marshawn Lynch in this game. Besides that, I'm not really touching any other Raiders. Maybe Jared Cook, because he's been pretty good at tight end. So those are the 3 guys that I would touch.
Yeah, this is a good game, I think, for Jared Cook. Sorry, and Miami has 2 good cornerbacks, so Xavier Howard's probably gonna be matched up on Amari Cooper. That'll be a good matchup. Yeah, I think Cook could be in line for a really nice day.
Yeah, it's going to be a surprisingly fun game to watch. There's a lot of great matchups this week. Really looking forward to Sunday. Our next matchup here, John, is the one we've been talking about, and we're kind of... This is an intriguing one. You got the Buffalo Bills, who've been absolutely horrendous, going down to Minnesota to play the Vikings. The Vikings are 17-point favorites, John.
Yeah, there's a lot of lumber to cover. So the Bills have problems. So I'm going to take the Vikings in this one. I hate taking 17 points is a lot, but Vikings should have won that game against the Packers last week. I don't think the Bills will give them any problem. I'm starting a lot of Vikings if I have them.
Yeah, and they got a new kicker too, John. Did you hear?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that their kicker missed 3 field goals in overtime. Well, 2 in overtime.
Right.
Yeah. We talked about this with Danny on our preview show, strategy show, about and Danny called. He said they should have gone with Kai Forbath, the veteran, over the rookie, and especially when you're trying to, win a NFC championship this season. And he was right. So props to Danny for making that call. Mm-hmm. You and I were kind of Carlson has a big leg though. But here you see, under pressure, the rookie, not really ready. I don't know. Did they picked up
Dan Bailey? Yeah,
They cut Carlson then.
Yep, they cut Carlson, picked up Bailey, and Bailey's one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history. So he's a pretty solid bet. He turned down offers for more money from other teams, but he really wanted to go to the Vikings, and can you blame him? He's going to win.
Right, formerly with the Cowboys, I believe, Dan Bailey.
Yep, he was cut right before the start of the season.
Right, and surprised he was still available, coming off an injury though, I think, right?
He just got cut. I just think he was waiting for the right opportunity, and it sure worked out for him.
Right, last year he was injured.
Oh yes, yeah.
So coming back from injury this season. Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings though, Joe.
Yeah, I'm not starting any Bills. I'm not touching anyone on the Bills this week, including Shady McCoy. And Shady McCoy might not even play, so if that's the case, Chris Ivory will get the start. Either way, I'm not touching any of these guys, but I'm firing up all my Vikings. I'm firing up Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Kyle Rudolph. All these guys are guys you got to start against this terrible Bills defense.
Right, and the Minnesota defense is a good start as well.
Oh, of course. They're my number 2 defense, John.
Yep, and fire up Dan Bailey as well.
Absolutely. I picked him up in as many leagues as I could. So, obviously, we like the Vikings here. The next game is going to be a fun one, too. The Colts going down to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Carson Wentz finally cleared for contact, and he's going to start this game at home against the Colts. Eagles currently sitting as 7-point favorites. I'm taking the Eagles in this one.
No, I'm going to take the Eagles as well, though the Colts defense has been surprising. I didn't expect them to win last week, and they went into Washington and beat the Redskins. I liked the Redskins in that game, and I just surprised that Indianapolis won that game. But I still like the Eagles defense, keeping Colts in check.
Yeah.
They've been great against the run, the Eagles. Pass rush is still great with Fletcher Cox. So, yeah, the Eagles line it up. And Eagles recently signed Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, they signed Jordan Matthews because Mike Wallace broke his tibia in his leg last week, and they put him on IR, probably gone for the majority of the season. Jordan Matthews knows the playbook, but I think you still got to wait and see with him. I think it may be too early to pick him up.
Right, and Alshon Jeffrey, I think, returning this week.
He's supposed to. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it another week. No need to rush him back against the Colts.
So, this should be a good game for the Eagles, although they're injured in the backfield. Ajayi and Sproles are both banged up. Ajayi more likely to play than Sproles. I think Sproles may have a little bit longer injury. So maybe you'll see Corey Clement a little bit more this week, Joe.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Ajayi is probably not going to play either. So if that's the case, Corey Clement's a great start here, especially for someone that's available in the majority of leagues. So if you can start him, I think that's a great play.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good play this week while Ajayi and Sproles are out. So yeah, it could be a great start against the Colts.
And on the Colts side of the ball, I mean, I'm not ready to start Andrew Luck against the Eagles. He has not been very good to start the season. There's only 3 guys that I'm willing to start on the Colts, and that's both Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle.
Yep.
So these are the 2 guys I'm looking at, and then T.Y. Hilton, and there's no one else really. I mean, you're looking at Ebron, Doyle, and T.Y. Hilton. There's no one else fantasy relevant right now, and it's kind of a hard time to watch the Colts.
Yeah, not in this matchup. I'm likely staying away from any Colts players.
Yeah, and moving on to the next one, I mean, we're pretty straightforward on the Eagles there. Next one's going to be fun too. Packers at Redskins. Packers on the road are still 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to go with the Packers here. Aaron Rodgers has looked really good, and that defense has been surprisingly good as well.
Yeah, I took the Packers as well. They're just a better team. Alex Smith, though, has been pretty good for the Redskins.
Yeah, for sure.
No touchdowns last week, 2 touchdowns week 1. But it's not like he hasn't gotten his job done. So basically it's been the Chris Thompson show over there in Washington. He's been heavily targeted out of the backfield. And, those guys, you might want to think about starting Jordan Reed. And Jamison Crowder, a notoriously slow starter, but I noticed he's being dropped in a lot of leagues. But, if you stick with him, through the end of the year, I think he'll end up getting some dividends.
I agree with you. I think right now, I think these are guys you just stash on your bench. But like you said, Thompson's a start. Adrian Peterson's going to be a start here. And then, Jordan Reed. I thought he was going to have a huge game last week. He didn't. But he looks healthy, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, he's looked healthy, and I think he's got a good matchup against the Packers. But yeah, you're firing up. Aaron Jones is back this week. We'll have to see how he does. I think Washington's been pretty tough against the run. Mm-hmm. They're only allowing 86 yards rushing per game. So it's a bad matchup for Packers running backs, although we haven't seen Aaron Jones yet. So as far as starting Jones, I think it's a wait and see, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little too risky this week, but I do like Aaron Jones the rest of the season, especially since Jamal Williams hasn't really done much.
Yeah, they have not been able to get the running game going. Of course, they've had tough matchups the past 2 weeks against the Bears and Vikings. So maybe we just haven't seen the best of the Packers running game yet. Of course, they have a tough matchup against the run this week as well, too, with the Redskins.
Yeah.
But, brighter days likely ahead for, guys like Jones and Williams.
For sure. Hold on to those guys. Don't drop them because it's going to really hurt later on. But, on the Redskins side of the ball, I'm thinking...
Chris Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say...
They have weapons. Washington. They have Paul Richardson and Jamison Crowder at wide receiver. So they've got Jordan Reed and Chris Thompson, Alex Smith. They should be able to put up some points against Green Bay. I think this is going to be, maybe a 50-point scoring game. I don't know what the over/under in this is, but I don't think. I think there's some fantasy potential here, Joe. Guys like Devontae Adams and Jimmy Graham catch a touchdown in the red zone.
Oh yeah, I mean these guys are all must starts. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Geronimo Allison's actually a sneaky start this week too. He had a big game week 1 and kind of fell off a little bit last week. So I think it's going to be between Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison for that, for that guy that's going to go off. And this week I think it's going to be Allison.
Yeah, and Devontae Adams, of course, always a good red zone threat, Joe.
Oh yeah, he's a must start almost every week.
Yeah, must start. This will be an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting game to watch with more offense than I think we're expecting right now. So, but the next game here is going to be a defensive game, at least in my mind. You got the Bengals going down to play the Panthers in Carolina. Bengals have come out really hot out of the gate, and the team is looking good. The offense is looking surprisingly good, and the same thing with the defense. And the Panthers can say the defense has been good, but the offense hasn't been that great. So I think this is going to be a defensive-minded game. Bengals here, 2.5-point underdogs. And I'm taking the Bengals here. I know they're on the road, but the Bengals have looked really good through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I took the Bengals the first 2 weeks, and that paid dividends for me. So I hesitate to take him here, though, even though they're only 2-point favorites. So I'm going to take the Panthers in this one. I think Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey will find a way to get it done. The Bengals have likely the superior offense, though, with Joe Mixon out. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Panthers in this one to lay the points at home.
Well, it's gonna be a fun one to watch. I mean, Gio Bernard's gonna get the start with Mixon out. I think he's a great play here, especially in the passing game. And then AJ Green with the 3 touchdowns in the first half last week. He's playing out of his mind, so you got to roll with him. Panthers side of the ball, you mentioned it, Cam Newton, McCaffrey. We haven't seen anything out of C.J. Anderson yet, John. I'm thinking he might be approaching drop territory.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. I thought they'd be more of a smash mouth team this season, and of course, Ian Thomas dropped a touchdown in the end zone. Ian Thomas could be a sneaky pick from here on out as he gets rolling, in place of Greg Olsen. And we haven't heard much from Devin Funchess. He's got to start to pick it up soon. Cam Newton's been getting it done with the short passing game. He hasn't, done it with the deep passing game and, legging it out here and there, running for it. But Christian McCaffrey, he's been getting heavily targeted in the past.
Sure has. He's been phenomenal. I like what I'm seeing out of him, and, we'll just have to wait and see with the tight end situation. I know Aldo and I talked about it last week, and we said it's a wait and see. I think you give it one more week, and if he's got a real nice week here, you pick him up. And if you're in DraftKings or something like that, he could be a sneaky play in daily fantasy for a tight end on the cheap.
Right. Yeah, and I think this will be a lower scoring game, Joe. I just think
for sure.
These two teams, Carolina, pretty good defense. Bengals, pretty good defense. The Bengals, I think, have overperformed thus far, but I'm still going to stick with the Panthers, I think, in this one, even though I've been hot riding the Bengals. I just think the Panthers will find a way to get it done.
It's going to be a good defensive matchup, so looking forward to that one. And the next one here is going to be another defensive matchup. You got the Titans going down to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars, and surprisingly, John, this one's even, so it's straight pick 'em. And in that case, I'm going to go with the Jaguars at home.
Yeah, Jaguars should be favored in this game by the end of the week, I think, for sure. Tennessee's offense has not done anything, Joe. When they start to do something, then they can be considered favored. I mean, I know they got the win last week against the Texans, surprisingly. But I'll take the Jags.
Yeah, and Mariota's dealing with an injury in his hand. He's having numbness in his fingertips, and that's why Blaine Gabbert got the start last week, and I imagine it'll probably be the same here. So that Jaguars defense is a top 3 play this week for sure. Yeah,
and Jacksonville's offense has played pretty well too.
They sure have. Keelan Cole looked amazing last week.
Yeah, Fournette is returning this week, I think. So
he's still questionable, John. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. If he's out, then T.J. Yeldon's. He's an interesting start here because the Titans' run defense has been pretty darn good. So Yeldon's a mid-tier guy if he gets to start here. But if you have Fournette, obviously you got to start him.
Yeah, Fournette owners have to be a little disappointed thus far. Like I said, some of it was a bit tough year for running backs, Joe. I mean,
yes, it has.
Guys like Alex Collins and Leonard Fournette and Shady McCoy. you can keep naming them. Just haven't been performing. So, but this week, Blake Bortles has been pretty darn good, Joe.
Yeah, he has. He looked amazing against New England last week. That's for sure.
Yeah. So sneaky pick here for Bortles. If you're streaming quarterbacks in daily fantasy, I think he's got a pretty decent matchup.
Yeah, and on the Titans side of the ball, I mean, there's not a lot of guys I'm interested in. I'd say the only one that's even worth considering is Dion Lewis, and Dion Lewis is actually on my sit list this week. He's got a tough matchup against the Jaguars. Same thing with Derrick Henry. So I'm going to advise to start absolutely no Titans under any circumstance this week.
Yeah, as well. I mean, I like Dion Lewis because I think he's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield for PPR leagues. So I don't think Dion Lewis is a bad start. Corey Davis, of course, matched up against Jalen Ramsey, so that's not a matchup I like, as Ramsey's been shutting down receivers. Maybe we'll see some Rashard Matthews, Joe.
You might.
He's a good player, just coming back from injury. Hasn't really gotten back up to speed yet.
No, not yet. So, with that said, Jaguars, I think it's pretty straightforward. You and I are on the same page. Then we have the Broncos going down to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Somehow the Ravens are 5-point favorites in this game. I just don't see it. I think I'll take the Broncos with the 5 points.
Yeah, I'm with you right there too, Joe. I'm going to take the Broncos plus the points. I think Broncos have enough weapons to keep it closer. They played a close game against the Raiders and came back and won. So a late score could keep this within the 5.5 points. So the guy on the Broncos who's looked more like the lead back. We both like Royce Freeman to be that bell cow back. Lead back has been the dynamic Philip Lindsay, Joe.
Yeah, he's looked great, and I think there is value for both those guys. Royce Freeman is a bell cow back. He's going to get that role. He's going to have better matchups as the season goes on. But Lindsay's like a third down back, almost like a Dion Lewis, and I really like what I see out of both these guys. They're a good complement to each other, and I think both are fantasy relevant.
Yeah, well, Royce is going to get Freeman's going to get the goal line touches for sure. But I think Philip Lindsay could be a little bit more than a third down back. I think he's got potential to be a lead back. I know he's a smaller guy, slighter guy, but there definitely is potential there. And then, of course, you got those great wide receivers on Denver. Although the Baltimore wide receiver core has been pretty good too, with John Brown and Michael Crabtree and Willie Snead. And then, of course, they have those good tight ends with Mark Andrews catching a touchdown last week.
Yep.
A guy that you liked a lot. Both of us still like him. I think we're going to see a lot more from Mark Andrews. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he's looked good out there. He's getting open. But, he's still got a lot of guys to compete with for targets. So I think that's the main thing right now, is getting those targets. And I think Flacco's starting to get more confidence in him. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. Or if you want to get an early pickup on him, especially in like a keeper league, pick up Mark Andrews, because I think it's only a matter of time before he just breaks out completely. And that Ravens side of the ball it's been rough, man. They have issues running the ball with Alex Collins. The play calling has not been great. Collins has had his moments, but at the same time, they're just splitting things between him and Buck Allen. So right now, Alex Collins is still the lead dog, but he's had some rough matchups to start the year, and this is no different. This is a tough one against the Broncos.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you what you thought. I mean, Buck Allen has put up 14, 15 points the first couple weeks. So, for PPR, he's been a pretty good play.
For sure.
I'm wondering what you think about this week. Which guy is the better option?
It's tough. I mean, they've been saying they're going to use Collins more. So, I know they said that last week, but I really think they're going to do it this week. So they're going to get him more involved in the passing attack. So I think they do it. I like Collins just a little bit better this week.
Yeah, no, Buck Allen available in a lot of leagues still, so there's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, definitely worth adding Allen if he's available, especially in PPR leagues. And then on the Broncos side of the ball, Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. Both guys are going to start here. And, we talked about, Lindsey and Freeman. I think both are worth a start. But the Ravens are good against the run, so just keep your expectations in check.
Right, another guy keep an eye on has been Jake Butt in Denver, who's gotten better, from first week to second week. So we'll see if he continues to take the lead in that tight end position in Denver.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to find out. And John, we actually got some breaking news from the NFL. They have announced the Super Bowl halftime performer for this year's Super Bowl.
Ooh, wow. Who is it?
The halftime performer will be Maroon 5.
Okay. Yeah. That'll be pretty good.
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise to me. Just came across my ticker, and I'm like, we might as well bring it up.
Is that Adam Levine?
That's right.
Adam Levine, yeah, pretty good performer.
So yeah, there's a Super Bowl performer. I'm sure we'll find out more as we get closer, but the season's just starting. We both like the Broncos in the last game, and let's move into the next one here. The 0-2 Giants traveling down to play the 0-2 Texans. So John, who do you like here? The Texans are 7-point favorites. I think I'm going to take them at home.
Yeah, I'm take the Texans as well. I'm surprised that the Texans are 0-2 with that defense. Of course, a lot of playmakers on offense. Giants, of course, we didn't expect too much out of them. They just haven't run the ball enough with Barkley. Of course, last week they started to run the ball more. We'll see. They could give some trouble, though. Eli Manning hasn't been great, and he's been getting hit a lot back there.
Yeah, that O-line has been terrible.
Of course, and their starting center went down for the season, I think.
Yeah.
Jalapio.
Yeah, tore
down for the season.
ACL,
so.
I think.
Right, so yeah, I'm going to take the Texans in this one, and I'll look for the Texans to put up some good amount of points on the Giants this week.
Yeah, I think I think if Deshaun Watson ever has a week to get it back together, I think it's this week. So I think Watson is a prove it week for him. If he can't do it this week, you really got to start to worry about him. I know Aldo and I talked about how he has not looked himself last week, so hopefully he can get it done this week, because I'm starting to get nervous about Watson.
Yeah, it's like I said, teams have figured out how to neutralize him a little bit better. There's more tape on Watson this year, so I think he's going to overcome. This is a tough kid, a kid who's won at every level. So I think he's going to bounce back, Joe. This would be a good week for Watson to bounce back.
Yeah, I think so too. And you're still going to roll with DeAndre Hopkins. You're still going to start Will Fuller, two guys you absolutely must start on the Giants side of the ball. You're going to start Odell. You're going to start Saquon Barkley. Sterling Shepard has looked pretty good as well. And I think you really got to have those guys in your lineup right now, because they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, Evan Engram, of course, is about to come back. He didn't do much week one, then scored last week. So time to get him in the lineup.
For sure. Those are all the fantasy guys in this game, and you're really not touching anybody else. But you and I both like the Texans. Texans defense, you're going to start them. I don't think they're going to have an amazing week, but I think they'll put up enough points. And if Clowney comes back and starts in this game, look for Eli to be running even more for his life. So should be a fun one to watch. Definitely, I like to watch Eli run around because it's pretty humorous. He looks like a hamster on a wheel. Anyway, next one might be my game of the week, John. Chargers going down to play the Rams in the Battle of LA. Rams are currently 7-point favorites here. Man, it's a tough one to pick, but the Rams have looked so dominant. I think I got to take the Rams here.
Yeah, what's the spread again, Joe?
The Rams are 7-point favorites.
I think I kind of like the Chargers in this one to keep it within a touchdown. The Rams just haven't really played anybody good. They played the Raiders week 1, and they played terrible Arizona offense last week. So Chargers a little bit better team than both those two teams, and a little bit better defense. Jared Goff, although he's played two, pretty weak teams, hasn't been great under pressure. So the Chargers are able to put a little more pressure on the quarterback than the first two opponents of the Rams. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. They're both kind of at home.
Yeah.
So I think this game will be the first close game that Rams play this season.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Joey Bosa is not likely to start again. He's dealing with an injury that's sidelined him for the last 2 weeks. So he's doubtful to play in this game. So keep that in mind. But you're firing up your players. I mean, if you have Phillip Rivers, if you have another option, if you have a better option with a better matchup, then go for it. But odds are that if you have Phillip Rivers, you probably don't have a better option. I'm lucky enough in one league I was able to pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick this week, so I'm going to start him over Phillip Rivers against the Steelers. But for the most part, you're going to start Phillip Rivers. You're going to start Melvin Gordon. You're going to start Keenan Allen. I mean, these are all guys that you just can't bench. Same thing on the Rams side of the ball. If you have Goff, you might have a better option, but it's not a terrible play. And obviously Todd Gurley is the best running back in football, so you're going to roll with him. And Brandon Cooks has looked really good, as well as Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. So these are all guys you got to start.
Yeah, there's weapons on both sides of the ball, and both defenses are really good. Yes, it's hard for me to say. I think Cooper Kupp is a good start against, in the slot against the Chargers slot cornerback. Yeah, you're starting your Melvin Gordons and your Todd Gurleys.
Definitely.
There's enough weapons on both sides of the ball to keep this a closer game. I don't know if it'll be a high-scoring game, though, Joe. I think, defense can keep this, to around 50 points. So we'll see. This is probably, like you said, the best game of the week.
Yeah, it's going to be a defensive party, and I'm ready to watch. The next one here, John, is one as Bears fans are really excited about. The Bears going down to Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Cardinals have looked absolutely terrible, and that Bears defense has been ferocious, to say the least. So the Bears are my number 1 ranked defense this week. I think they're going to go absolutely crazy against the Cardinals. And the Bears only 7-point favorites on the road, John. I'm taking the Bears.
Yeah, I will as well, too. It's been a long time since the Bears were 7-point favorites on the road, though, Joe. It's something to watch. The thing that worries me about if I were to take Arizona is their quarterback situation, because Bradford clearly the best quarterback on the roster, but I think that Arizona a little bit frustrated with the quarterback play and are thinking about starting Josh Rosen or Mike Glennon, which I think those would be a big mistake. And then I definitely like the Bears in that one. But Bradford in a bounce back week, I think, could keep this game close to a touchdown. We haven't got great play out of Mitchell Trubisky. That's the weakest spot on the Bears offense. This could be a good game for Trubisky, to show that he's up to the task of driving this offensive machine. So, yeah, I'm still going to stick with the Bears to cover by 7. That could change later on in the week as we get news about what Arizona's going to do, though.
Yeah, agreed. And my start of the week here, John, in my article coming out tomorrow, my start of the week is Jordan Howard. While he didn't have a great game against the Seahawks, but now he gets kind of a cakewalk of a matchup against the Cardinals. Arizona has been absolutely terrible, and they give up an average of 136 yards rushing per game and almost 300 passing per game. So, Howard's been involved in both the air and the ground attacks, so I think he's going to have a big game here, and I think we finally get that monster performance out of Jordan Howard that, we've been waiting for.
Oh, yeah, it's just that coaching staff has to give him the ball more than 15 times a game, and I think they will this week with that great matchup, and the offensive line has been opening up holes for him. I just think they just haven't been, for whatever reason, they have not been willing to run the ball like they should be with their best offensive player. I think I would be running Jordan Howard 25, 30 times a game. And set up the pass that way. They've been trying to use the pass to set up the run, and I just don't think that's the right strategy. I think you got to roll with Howard.
Yeah.
And this week is, like you said, a great matchup for Howard.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet he finishes the week as probably a top 10 running back for sure, maybe even higher. But on the Bears side of the ball, you're starting your studs. Allen Robinson, was great this week. He had 10 catches for 83 yards. I think he continues more of the same. Trey Burton, I think he's going to have a big game here. And then, of course, you're going to roll with on the Arizona side, I think the only person I would even consider is Larry Fitzgerald. But, David Johnson for me is a sit this week. I know he's going to catch balls out of that backfield, but that Bears defense has been really hard against the run, and David Johnson just has not been able to get going.
Yeah, it's surprising. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities to catch the ball out of the backfield this week. But yeah, he definitely does not have a good matchup against the Bears defense this week. But, you drafted him high, so you're going to start him anyways, I think, right, Joe?
Unless you happen to have you have one of those wraparound picks where you have a better option, but you probably have to start him. But for me, he's a sit this week. I don't think he gets more than 10 points in this game.
Wow. I think he's probably good for a little bit more than that. We'll see. But yeah, it's a risky start. But sooner or later, Johnson's got to break out. Maybe not this week, but yeah, I just don't know if you have any. If you drafted Johnson, you don't have many players that are better,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we like the Bears this week. I think that defense is the number one defense for sure this week. Going to be interested to see how good we can do against the Cardinals, especially given our performance this week. So we'll see.
If Cardinals are playing from behind, Johnson could catch double-digit passes, which makes a pretty good floor. But we'll see. You might see a lot of passes to him out of the backfield in this one if the Bears get out to a big lead.
For sure, and their Monday night opponent, the Seattle Seahawks, are at home, and they're hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Currently, this is straight pick'em. It's even at the moment. Seattle has looked really bad, and Dallas looked a little bit better last week. So for that reason, I'm going to take Dallas on the road. I know it's hard going into Seattle with the 12th man, but Seattle's O-line has been absolutely terrible, and Russell Wilson has been running for his life. So for that reason, I'm taking Dallas.
Yeah, right now I think I have the Seahawks as my pick, but just being home in an even game, which actually means that the neutral site, the Cowboys, would be a 3-point favorite. So I don't know, it might change as I see, but I have a hard time picking the Cowboys on the road against Seattle, but I'd like to see the injury report before I make a final decision. I think you might be right, though, Joe. Dallas is the better team. Seattle just has a lot of problems. They're banged up on defense.
Yeah, they are.
And the offense has not been very good. Doug Baldwin is still a question mark. Is he expected to return this week, Joe?
It's still up in the air. I think his knee's messed up, so I don't think he comes back. But we'll have to monitor that situation. But, Tyler Lockett has been good in his, replacing him for the time being. So you got to look at Tyler Lockett. Russell Wilson probably could have a good bounce back game here if he's gonna be running a lot. So, I don't highly recommend Russell Wilson, but if you don't have a better option, those you're gonna go with him. And Rashad Penny has been the better running back, at least in my eyes. But I'm not touching this running game at all right now.
Yeah, it's been tough to call. Just again this season, the Seattle running game. You think they've got two good running backs, but one of them could at least take the lead, and just hasn't been that way. And the offensive line is still bad. So the more I talk about it, the more I like Dallas. Then, but like to wait a little bit before I make a final pick on this one, especially for a pick 'em league at Bears Barnum.
Yeah, for sure, man. And on the Dallas side of the ball, obviously you're going to start Ezekiel Elliott. You know, he's finally putting the pieces together. I think he's got a real nice game here against Seattle. And then I'm not touching I'm not touching Dak. The receiving core has been really inconsistent. I think Ezekiel Elliott's really the only guy I want to touch right now. It's always kind of like a roll of the dice for which receiver is going to go off.
Yeah, I'm okay starting Dak this week, but it's hard to pick a receiver in this one, Joe.
But I like Dallas. You like Seattle at the time being, but that's going to be an interesting one to watch. And Sunday night, you have the mentor versus the mentee, teacher versus the master. Bill Belichick and the Patriots going down to Detroit to play the Lions with Matt Patricia as the new head coach. Of course, a lot of rumblings about Patricia possibly losing that locker room, not liking his coaching style. And Detroit has not looked very good at all. Patriots coming off a bad loss last week to Jacksonville, but Bill Belichick always seems to rebound really well. The Patriots are 7-point favorites on the road here. I'm taking New England.
Yeah, I'm going to take New England as well. They're the better team. I think there'll be plenty of points to score, though. Both sides. This will be a higher scoring game, Joe. I think New England is allowing close to 300 yards passing a game, so I think there'll be plenty of yardage and catches to go around for that Detroit receiving core. But I think New England is the better team and is a touchdown at least better.
I agree, and you're rolling with Tom Brady here. You're going to go with the Gronk, and they made headlines trading for Josh Gordon this week. I do think he's going to have a small package in this game. He might have 15 plays, and you can see what he can do with them. I think he's worth a flyer as a wide receiver 3 if you're desperate, but otherwise, I would probably wait until he comes back after having more time to look at the playbook. And then, the running back situation between Burkhead and Michelle, I have a hard time picking between the two of them, but if you're in need of a flex spot, I think both guys will be fine. James White's been catching passes as well, so it's always like the three-headed monster right now. They're kind of all interchangeable at this point. And then on the Lions side of the ball, Theo Riddick's been catching passes. I think Theo Riddick's probably a sneaky play here because he's been really involved with that passing game. And then obviously, any receivers, Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones. I mean, these are Golden Tate. These are all guys you're going to play.
Yeah, Golden Tate, of course, the target leader over there. Like I said, there'll be plenty of wide receiver yardage to go around there against New England secondary. But I'm still going to stick with New England in this game. Just Detroit just don't seem to be a very good team this year, Joe.
Yeah, they're struggling, and I think it's going to be a tough start of the year, definitely. I think it's going to be another loss for them, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Matt Patricia. But definitely not a good start for him. I think the Patriots bounce back in this one. It'll be a fun Sunday night game, though, for sure. And that leaves us, with one more matchup, John. That's Monday night. In a game that, at the start of the season, I didn't think would be anything, but the Steelers, still winless, go into Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. Fitzmagic has been tearing apart the country. He's been so good that Jameis Winston probably isn't going to get his job back. This game's currently sitting as even. It's straight pick'em. The better team so far this season, John, has been the Buccaneers, so I'm going to go with the Bucs at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bucs as well, too. This should be a pretty high-scoring game, Joe, so I'm probably going to get all my guys in there from both teams. Yeah, 800 yards, over 800 yards passing this season so far for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Unbelievable.
Back-to-back 400-yard games. So, pretty crazy.
The Steelers' defense has not been good.
Right. And Tampa Bay still doesn't really have a running game sorted out, as Peyton Barber has been bad. They haven't been able to run the ball very well. So, you think we'll see Ronald Jones active this week, Joe?
I hope so. I think that'll be, give them another element of surprise. But I still think Fitzpatrick is a great play here. Both quarterbacks here are good plays. Obviously, you're going to fire up all the guys you can. Juju, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson's been very good. O.J. Howard had some great plays last week. I do have to say, I think Cameron Brate is starting to get the back seat to Howard. So if I had to pick between the two, I think Howard's got more upside the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I'm surprised the Steelers are 0-2, Joe. We really thought they'd run away with this division. That just hasn't been the case.
They're 0-1-2. They're 0-1-1, John.
Right. 0-1-1. Yeah, right. So they're winless. Yeah, but surprising so far. But a lot of football left to be played. Right now, Cincinnati's been the best team in that division. Of course, it's hard to tell. But I still think the Steelers can come away with this division, Joe. They just need to pull it together.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to run away with that division, so I think it's going to be close until the very end of the season. So this may very well be one of the most entertaining games of the week. There's going to be so many points, and I'm interested to see how Fitzmagic does in week number 3. So it'll make things real tough when Jameis comes back, but I imagine if he keeps playing at this level, I would have a hard time taking him out.
Yeah, I would too. I'd keep rolling with Fitzpatrick if I was Tampa Bay. I'm interested in looking at that Tampa Bay running game. I think, Peyton Barber has not been able to do anything. They just haven't run the ball well. But do you think Ronald Jones pick him up this week on waiver wires, or try and get him when it's too late after he breaks out?
I mean, I'd say pick him up now. He got drafted in a lot of leagues that I was in, and then he got recently dropped. But I think he's going to be the guy going forward. They're a good team. So I'd like to pick up Ronald Jones if you can. And obviously the Steelers are dealing with some issues at running back too. James Conner's been fantastic, but Le'Veon still is not reported. So it does not look like Le'Veon Bell is going to play this week. So James Conner is a great play here against the Bucs.
Yeah, another great play. Kid's getting a lot of work and getting a lot of notice. Been very fantasy relevant. But I'm curious about that Tampa Bay running game. That's what I want to see, how they solve that.
Well, that'll be one thing to keep an eye on Monday night, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it in our waiver claim part of our website, the Goon's grabs and Tooch's targets. But make sure you check out fantasyfootballgoon.com. We have our waiver wire targets every week, as long as our rankings. So tons of stuff to look at. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Tooch, glad to have you back, buddy. It's going to be a fun week. Welcome back, and ready for more football kick-ass action, baby.
It's great to be back, and great to be talking fantasy football.
God bless America. God bless football, and let's kick some ass. See you guys next week.